Hi, I'm Holly Patrick, Senior Journalist at North Star Meetings Group UK, and today I am joined by Rory Archibald, who is Senior Business Events Manager at Visit Scotland. Rory, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Rory, yesterday you were on a session about how to empower local communities through events. Tell us a bit more about that session.
But firstly, it's a great way to wake yourself up at 10 o'clock in the morning with a Scottish accent and trying to hear what I'm saying. But yeah, it was empowering communities and how the events industry can have real impact beyond the conference room. We firmly believe in Scotland and in many destinations and in many industry associations that our industry can do more. It can be a tool to combat global challenges. I asked the question, is it enough that we just meet? And with what's going on in the world right now, I firmly believe that it's not enough, and that we have a duty as human beings to do as much as we can to help people. Now, that could be in our local communities, that could be somebody down the street, or that could be combating huge global challenges like refugees, the climate crisis. There are so many different facets that we can help with. We're an industry that brings everybody together. It could be a scientific field, it could be industry, it could be team building. But at some point in everybody's lives, they sit in a conference room, a meeting room, a workshop. And that is where we can influence change. And I firmly believe, and it's a strong belief, that we have a duty to do that.
Wow. Absolutely. And I think a lot of the audience, if not all the audience watching this, would absolutely agree with you, but maybe not know how to achieve that, how to get there. So what does empowering local communities through events look like for a destination and look like for planners and also delegates?
Sure. It's collaborative. That's one of the main things. It's no one person's responsibility or one side of the industry's responsibility. It needs delegates, event organisers and destinations and venues to all come together to work with it. It really depends what impact, what does empower community mean. It will completely depend on the destination and what challenges they're facing, or what causes the event organiser and their organisation might be championing, or even the issues that might be internal within them or with their membership. At Scotland, we work with around about 35-ish, and it grows almost on a monthly basis, organisations. We go out to tell them who we are. We go out to say, there is a way that we can work together. We haven't found it yet, but when the right event comes in, we'll be able to make connections and have a conversation and start that process. So those 35 organisations are academic institutions, they are social enterprises, they are charities, they're lobbying groups. So as a very short example and a really simple one, but very impactful, we work with Invisible Cities, which is a tour company, but they train people who have experienced homelessness to become tour guides, and they help them not have a second chance, but to reinvent themselves. And it's one of the most authentic tours you'll ever have. But we've now had so many organisations, and even after my talk yesterday, coming up to wanting to book tours, because that small change directly takes people off the streets of Scotland and the UK.
Wow. What's the feedback been for delegates experiencing the tours with Invisible Cities?
Incredible. I mean, people who've experienced homelessness, they know the city better than anybody else. And you get a much more authentic tour. You hear some of the good and some of the bad. And I think we always talk about experiences and really want to understand the destination when we travel. And part of that is understanding the bad, because it adds to the thick fabric, it adds to the richness of your experience, of the culture, and it's just completely different. You know, we have tour guides who are incredibly reading off a script, really, and don't get me wrong, it's suitable for most people, it depends on what you're looking for, but they're telling it from the heart. They're telling their story, their life story, and the feedback has been incredible.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That sounds absolutely fascinating. Lastly then, what sort of advice would you give to destinations or planners who are looking to incorporate that community impact role in their event, but perhaps just don't really know where to start?
I would always say look internally. If you are a destination, if you're a city, what are the challenges that your city is facing? I mean, that could be drug abuse, that could be more an increase in people experiencing homelessness. It could be diversity, whatever it is, look internally. And the organisations as well, look internally, look at what your values are. What is it that your organisation does, what you're trying to change? and then work together to find the local organisations that you can work with, that you can bring into the conference, or take your delegates out into the community to champion those areas. For example, if you're an association and you work in engineering, in Scotland we absolutely want you to be going around schools, universities, to reduce the gender inequality that happens within that particular field. And not just the schools where higher education is almost a given. We want to go to the areas where higher education is not always an option, to ensure that we're not just looking at who's going to be the best from looking at a piece of paper academically, but to ensure that we spread that access to education, that access to fairer life, fairer work, all those good UN SDGs throughout the whole of Scotland, not just where you would traditionally look.
Wow. So events really can have that positive impact on a local community.
I think more than any other industry.
Yeah. And it's there. You just have to ask the right questions and seek it
Absolutely.
out. Fantastic. Well, Rory, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your
pleasure.
Expertise. Enjoy the rest of the show and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.